You're listening to the Valley Current.
Greetings, Jack.
You're looking younger every day, Len. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. Must be that farm to table approach in your backyard.
Well, I hesitate to say what you look like with your Navy.
I got my Navy cap on because I've been going through all of my dad's old things, and he's got a bunch of stuff. So I put my Navy cap as I go through a lot of this old historical material. I guess my dad died 4 years ago, and things 5 years ago now. It'd be 5 years, 6 years, excuse me. It'd be 6 years next month. And my brother, of course, died it was a couple of weeks. Well, it was about 10 days ago. And so there's a lot of old stuff that you kind of wonder, what do you do with it? And I guess the lesson I learned from this is, as you get older, you should just start giving a lot of stuff away. I mean, you should just start giving a lot of stuff away. And I think there's actually a book written.
You can't take it with you.
You can't take it with you, and you get some great joy, I think, if you bring a smile to somebody's face, particularly if you give them something that they didn't expect, like some book on some subject. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that my dad had that I think to myself, had he given it to me, it would have had special significance. Of course, he kept it and stored it, and he probably, just didn't find the time to think about it.
I gave away to my teenage granddaughter something that she actually wanted, and that was my Army field jacket.
Oh, that's really valuable.
And it has my serial number on the collar, inside the collar.
Oh, nice.
And I also, what else did I give away?
And it didn't even have any holes in it. Didn't have any bullet holes in it, which is pretty good.
And I still have my dog tags and my medal, my ribbons and medal. I have 2 ribbons.
Did you become a general or something in World War II, and we just didn't cover that in all these podcasts?
No, I became a sergeant, 3 stripes with a rocker.
Okay, so you were close to lieutenant then, right?
No, I was a enlisted man. I was not in the officer corps. I enlisted in May of 1946 in order to get the GI Bill of Rights, which
so this was after World War II. This was World War II was over.
Legally, you're wrong.
Okay. World War II is not over.
No. The shooting war was over on the dates that you probably know, but legally, the Second World War was not over until, I believe it was May 15th or 20th, something like that, 1946. And the reason it needed a legal ending, as you would well know, is because of the enormous number of contracts and other legal arrangements made with vendors by the government where they needed a legal ending to the war.
Right.
And so I enlisted a couple of days before the legal ending of the war, which meant that I qualified for the World War II Victory Medal.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's good timing. That's excellent timing.
It was even better timing because had I not done that, and I did get the GI Bill, which gave me 4 years of undergraduate tuition payments at the University of Pennsylvania, plus $70 a month, I think it was, living expenses. Had I not done that, I would have been in the first draftees for the
Korean War?
For the Korean War, yeah.
Oh, that's good, really good timing.
So really it was a luck. Of course, it was entirely lucky. But I got 4 years of free college education, which is one of the main reasons I joined, because my parents couldn't afford to pay the $750 a year tuition at Penn.
Well, and that was a lot of money back then. I mean, that was like today, in today's dollars, it's probably north of 100,000, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, today people run up $300,000-400,000 loans to get through university and graduate school, and they spend a fortune of time paying them back. And
well, I lived at home. I commuted to Penn by trolley car from my West Philadelphia row house.
Nice.
And eventually that $75 supported my mother and father and me and my sister, because my father, who went into business with a cousin, had a breakup between the two of them. They simply didn't get along. And he had to start his own business, a dental laboratory. And we lived on that $70 a month, believe it or not, for a year or more, 4 people, while I built his laboratory and ran the finances. I had some experience. I had gone to the Wharton School at Penn and took accounting 101, and so I knew how to do accounting.
Oh, as part of the undergraduate, you got some business training.
Yes, at the Wharton.
Well, that's the same place that Donald Trump went, right? Didn't he? I had to get that in because I don't know if he actually went to classes, but they say he graduated from there.
Who knows?
But let me ask you something. Do you think that was formative to you working in your own lab? The fact that you created a lab, a dental lab, and you have to realize kind of the cleanliness factor and all the things that go into a lab?
You know, cleanliness had nothing to do with my father's dental lab.
No?
Although it was kept clean.
Yeah.
But no, I had my first lab when I was 9 years old.
Okay, what was that?
I built my own chemistry lab in the basement of our West Philadelphia row house. My mother permitted it. She was very liberal in that regard and in other respects as well.
Oh, you had your own microscope and everything at that point?
No, I had a chemistry lab. I didn't need a microscope at that time, although I did have one in a subsequent year.
So you got some sort of chemistry kit, or did you just?
Well, I got excited about chemistry when an uncle of mine bought me a Gilbert chemistry set.
Oh, I remember that. I had one of those. That was written. No, clearly that was we had some similarity here, albeit a number of decades later. But Gilbert was a famous name. I don't know whatever happened to it. I don't think it's around anymore.
Well,
but it was famous.
That's what turned me on to chemistry, and of course, many interesting things about that. But one of the interesting things is that the chemicals that used to be in that kit when I got it at the age of 8 or 9, half of them have been pulled in subsequent years because each one was thought to be dangerous.
Right.
So you ended up with a bunch of nonsense like boric acid and table salt and, stuff that was harmless. But back in the day, it had a lot of harmful chemicals. But I got turned on to chemistry and advanced to such a point that I built my own laboratory.
I'm putting this on the screen because I actually found one that's for sale. I bet this is probably like the one you had. It's a vintage Gilbert chemistry kit with the little latch. That has that little latch to keep the box closed.
Mine was a metal. It was sort of like that.
Yeah, this is a wooden one. You might have had a metal one. They changed them over time. I don't see any of the test tubes though. So whatever they're selling here, it's missing a lot of it, right?
They would have degenerated.
This is a beautiful 1936 Gilbert chemistry outfit box only, wooden and in excellent condition. More often than not, the decals are gone. The interior is stained from the old chemicals. And it did come with a bunch of stuff that was kind of inside of it, as I remember, right?
Sure. So as a result of learning so much chemistry on my own, when I got to my high school chemistry class, where we had a laboratory and lectures, I began to correct the teacher.
Oh, brother, that was the beginning right there.
That was in one way a bad move, but in another way a very good move, because he said, "Hayflick, I don't want you in the lectures anymore. You're going to be assigned to the stock room where all the chemicals are kept." So that was a big mistake, because there were several chemicals there that I didn't have, and so I stole,
no, you borrowed a few chemistry.
This and a tablespoonful of that, and got further educated about those chemicals that I didn't have. But I got straight A's in physics and chemistry.
I have to tell you something. It's on my mind because this morning I was at a chiropractor's office because I hurt my back somehow. It's a long story. The chiropractor was adjusting me, and for one reason or another, we got to talking about what we were each doing when we were 9 years old. You just mentioned that you were working with a chemistry set at 9, and the chiropractor said to me that he discovered his dad's reel-to-reel X-rated films when he was 9, 35 millimeter. And I said, "Really? 9 years old? I can't even remember having a sexual thought at 9. He says, "Oh, I was very into sex at 9. And I said, "Really?" He said, "Oh, yeah. I even figured out how to do the reel-to-reel and watched his films." And he said, "I have to tell you something. There's more on TV there's more on TV today that's sexual than was in that films back when I was 9 years old." We cracked up. He said, but his father paid a lot of money for these 35 millimeter films. And I thought that was really kind of a funny remark. And I was thinking to myself, we probably all have things that happen to us when we're 9 years old that really make an impression. And for him, it was finding those films and figuring out how to put those reels on the projector to make it work. Because it wasn't like just putting a cartridge the way you just put a CD or a DVD in it. It's nothing like that. It's like you have to get the film lined up and make sure the reels work. And there, that's like you with the chemistry set saying, "Hey, I'm going to make something out of these chemicals."
I'm going to change the subject and ask you how much longer you're going to stay in Florida. Or does your mother need your attention now?
Yeah, she's pretty much at the cusp of deciding whether to live in a nursing home or accept in-house care, which is really like having someone move in and be with her. And the reason for it is she's not kept her mobility as well as you kept your mobility. I mean, you're older than her, I think, by a few years, but you clearly are way more mobile and clearly take care of yourself. She does not cook any of her own meals. So she expects like literally some service.
You're staying with her?
Yeah, I'm staying with her until we figure out the right solution. And of course, every solution has a problem, like having the housekeeper come more often has a problem, and having, interviewing people has a problem. And, it's like there's an Italian cultural aspect that plays into it. There's a lot of stuff that plays into all this. But it's the right time. It's the right time in the world to do this, because being in California doesn't seem right now to be such a cheerful thing given the fires. But
she doesn't want to come to your place or to live near you.
No, she doesn't want to get on a plane. She doesn't trust planes, and she said she'll be too uncomfortable. I said, no, they wheelchair you into first class, and they put you in a flat first class. You can get a flat first class bed from here on, whatever JetBlue or whatever carrier has a first class. No, that would be too uncomfortable. I said, well, you could take a train. But I mean, I think that would be really, really an amazing trip to imagine happening when you're, need some help in every respect. So there's a real super mobility issue for sure. And she frankly likes all of her doctors here. She loves her infrastructure. But she, you know what, I realized that when you get to a certain age and you have a network of doctors and dentists and chiropractors, and it's not that easy to just pull up and change. It's not that easy to just say, you know, I know some people that still fly to Chicago to get their hair done, and I'm just shocked. And they say, can't find any hairdresser than the one in Chicago. And they literally, at like, you know, 6 times a year, fly to Chicago to get their hair done. I think it's a pretty expensive thing to do, and can't imagine that there would be a lack of hairdressers that would match up to someone in Chicago. No disrespect for Chicago. But let's talk for a minute about what's going on with this coronavirus, because you're kind of the expert, and Fauci is taking a lot of heat, but I guess he's finally gotten to the point. You know him on a first name basis, so you know he's been in government service for like 8 presidents or something, or 6, which is probably a record. To be in a bureaucracy that lasts that long is probably a amazing feat.
Directors do stay on for a very long period of time. I was offered the directorship of one of the institutes, and I turned it down. I think I told you that story.
Right.
It's a posh position. It pays pretty well, and they can't fire you except for cause.
Right.
So
they got to get you to quit. It seems like Trump is trying to get him to quit, right?
He won't quit.
He won't quit, right? He's going to say, man, I've outlasted other presidents here. I can outlast you.
He's very good at what he does. And he knows the field. He's not a virologist. He never was a virologist. He's an MD, but he's pretty well informed because he has a whole bunch of lieutenants who give him the proper advice.
Right.
So what Trump is doing to him is just ludicrous. It's just so crazy. I mean, it's another indication of how crazy Trump is becoming now, even worse, even more crazy than he was.
Yeah, that's the one remark my mom made. She said, I think this guy's off the rails now. I mean, this is a 90-year-old that voted for him at the age of 86 4 years ago, and absolutely will not vote for him this time around. And she thinks Florida is going to go. And, you know, he's a citizen of Florida. He moved to Florida. He's a resident of Florida. You would think he would carry Florida, but she thinks Florida is going to go way in favor of Biden. And not because Biden is a brilliant star, but just because people have come to hate Trump, as everything that's wrong is due to him. And, you know, it's not like everything is due to him, but clearly he's going to get the brunt of it. She thinks the older voters are completely going against him.
Well, the data indicates a toss-up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a really close race in some sense, and I think over and over again that it's surprising that the Democrats didn't end up fielding a much stronger candidate, because I don't know that Biden's got enough energy to make it through the next 4 years.
What he needs and what he will have are experts.
Right.
In every area of his decision-making needs. And all he has to do is sit in a chair, if you're talking about energy, and I don't think he lacks it.
Yeah.
And make the right decisions based on the information from experts, which is what Trump does not do.
Right.
And there are millions of experts out there, as you well know.
Yeah.
All you have to do is pick up the phone and they'll be on the next train or plane to the White House.
Mm-hmm. But we're seeing a lot of people sort of fatigued by this. You know, I have to say there is some truth to the view that being cooped up and not really interacting face to face very much anymore. I mean, Zoom obviously has done a brilliant job with a very low cost system, zero cost, if you look at this. enabling some semblance of presence, but there's nothing, there's no way to imagine that this is our future for what might be the next 2 to 4 years, but maybe that is what it's going to be.
Question that it's going to be at least one more year.
At least one more year, right?
At least one, if not more.
And you got to worry that we've got other complications happening from kind of a psychological point of view, because I get emails from distraught lawyers whose practices have dwindled down to nearly zero, who say, I didn't expect to be, in school and with so much student debt, just to tie it into that whole debt point that we made earlier, and be out in practice for 10, 15, in some cases 20, 25 years, and not feel like I know where my next case or client is coming from because I can't meet anyone. And they may not be marketing as much, or may not have a brand, or may not really, be out there as well as other lawyers. And, this is not a problem of big firms, because big firms typically have tight relationships with big clients that don't change that easily. But the smaller firms and the smaller solo practice lawyers are hurting. And I get these emails all the time from lawyers saying, "Do you have any work for me? I'm dying to get some work, please."
Is your staff still working?
Yeah, they're still working, but we're finding that there's a lot of decision making that gets elongated, because there isn't this ability to just huddle and go to a whiteboard and say, look, X plus Y is greater than Z, and do the calculations that make it obvious. So it becomes
your office is physically closed.
Yeah, the office is physically closed. There are some people that go to it because they like getting out of the house, but they then lock the door of the office that they're in. So they really are still quarantined, except to the extent that, say, some street person touches the doorknob or something, although I think someone actually cleans that as well. But generally speaking, it's been a very unique period. And a lot of bigger firms are figuring out that they're going to completely reduce their staff size and the amount of space they use. So these tall buildings in San Francisco, I think in 2 years, they're going to have to be refurbished as maybe condominiums or something, because the offices are not going to be used as much. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that will provide needed housing in San Francisco. If you say housing has been in crisis in San Francisco for like the last 10 years, maybe this is the ultimate solution. Offices become condominiums and bathrooms get installed and stuff like that happens.
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.